Hatch defends himself and fights them with great strength and skill. They are shocked by his power because the assistant told them he was just an old tourist who can't fight. Hatch beats them up, breaks the assistant's teeth, smashes his face, throws another one into the sea, and hits a third on the head with a bottle. The assistant gets angry, attacks him, and cuts off his finger with a knife. Hatch is shocked and loses his balance, falling into the sea. They think they finished him off, but are shocked when he comes back up and beats them all until he finishes them off. After that, Hatch goes to a phone booth in the street to call his brother Harry and tells him what happened, saying he's in big trouble. Harry explains that the city of Bloomfield has an old trade route used for smuggling, and the time their father took them there for vacation, he was actually on a secret official mission. When Officer Habel realized they were going to cause problems, he decided to get rid of him. At the same time, we see White preparing a shipment of smuggled chemicals and a large sum of money. Habib goes to White and is surprised when he finds the shipment very big, and he asks him if he needs more men because of the problems. So White looks at him angrily and tells him, if you didn't cause problems, there wouldn't be any problem at all. They think he's the mayor and must follow his words to the letter. Then Abel looks at him with spite and lets him know he remembers well, then leaves White and goes to check on his son. At that time, Becca is looking for Hatch and is surprised by his disappearance. While they're walking, her daughter notices a scary-looking dog, so the worker warns her about it and tells her it's a wild wolf that needs to stay locked up for safety. This is the same dog that appeared with Hatch at the beginning. At that moment, the assistant calls Abel and tells him what happened to them, confirming that Hatch is not just a tourist and must be here looking for something. Meanwhile, Hatch calls his boss and tells him he's in big trouble. As soon as his boss finds out he's in Bloomville, he tells him it's the city where drugs, weapons, and viruses come from, and it's considered more dangerous than Canada. Hatch asks who controls it, and his boss tells him it's a unique woman named Lindina. He explains that this city is very important to Lindina, and she considers it her empire. He also tells him that she works without limits or restrictions, and by messing with Abel's men, he has angered the Russians and they won't stop until they kill him and his family with weapons. He assures him that Lindina will slaughter his whole family one by one in front of his eyes. Here we see Lindina entering her casino. She attacks a man causing trouble there, stabs him in the hand and eye mercilessly while laughing, and then slits the throat of the employee standing at the table when she suspects he's involved. She pulls an earpiece from his ear when he screams, and her men appear. She and her men start killing them one after another, and she leaves the casino ordering her assistant to finish off everyone present and leave no trace so there are no witnesses. The assistant carries out her orders, turning the place into a massacre. At that moment, Lindina calls White to ask about the shipment. He tells her it's ready and speaks to her rudely. She tells him that's not how to talk to her company, but he replies that this is the last shipment and with that, he has paid off all his father's debts. But Lindina tells him his debts aren't finished yet and indirectly threatens to kill him just like she killed his father. White insists on his stance and tells her he won't work with her again. Lindina then calls Abel and tells him they need to teach White a lesson so he knows who he's dealing with. She orders him to hurt him and his son, so Abel decides to finish him off. Meanwhile, Becca and her children are waiting for Hatch at the hotel, and Hatch's father comes to reassure them and tells them Hatch will be late. At that moment, Hatch takes his car and goes to White's warehouse. Abel is there handing over the money, the shipment, and White's son to Lindina's men to please her. He asks her men to tell her he's very happy to be working with her and at her service. Just then, Hatch enters with a can of gasoline and starts pouring it on the money. Abel is shocked and asks him what he wants. Hatch threatens to burn the money and chemicals if anyone comes near him. Abel is forced to order his men to stay where they are and asks Hatch what he wants. Hatch asks him to let him and his family spend their vacation and return to their country without trouble. Abel is forced to agree. Before Hatch leaves, he sees Max getting out of the car, tied up, and realizes he's in danger. Abel orders him to leave quickly before he changes his mind and tells his men to finish him off, but Hatch doesn't give them a chance and leaves. While ordering the food, he looks at a certain spot in the restaurant and remembers his childhood with his father and brother, and he smiles. In that spot sits the city officer, Habil, who asks him what he's looking at. Hatch apologizes and tells him he was just reminded of some memories, but Habil refuses to believe him and thinks he was mocking him. He approaches and tells him it's not polite to look at the city officer like that. Hatch tries to apologize and leaves to bring the food to his wife and children. At night, Hatch takes them to the amusement park to play. Rady plays tennis skillfully and wins a lot of tickets, so a group of girls gather to watch him. Amazed, he offers them some tickets and they accept. Then he takes his sister to play another game. On the other side, Hatch sits with Becca and rekindles their love memories. A young man named Max bothers Rady because one of the girls who took the tickets is his girlfriend, and he thinks Rady is flirting with her. Rady asks him to leave before it turns into a fight. Max and his friends mock him, take the prize his sister won, and tear it up. Rady gets angry and attacks Max, and a big fight breaks out. When Hatch sees it, he runs over. At that moment, an employee comes in and hits Rady. Hatch learns that his son attacked people in their town, which will cause them big trouble. When Hatch tries to explain, they refuse to listen and voices are raised. Becca gets upset and asks Hatch to leave without any more problems. As they're leaving, the employee slaps Hatch's daughter on the head, which makes Hatch angry. He leaves quietly, but once outside, he decides to go back and defend his daughter. He asks Becca to go ahead to the car because he forgot his phone and will come back for it. He forcefully opens the door, attacks the employee, and starts beating him and anyone who tries to defend him. Everyone is shocked by Hatch's strength. During the fight, Becca comes in and calls out to him to stop. After that, Hatch and his son are arrested. Becca tries to explain to the officer that they were defending themselves. Meanwhile, Hatch talks to his son and advises him to try to control his temper. Rowdy looks at him in surprise and says, "You're the one telling me that." He tells him he's very proud of his actions and amazed by his strength, but Hatch tries to explain he was wrong and advises him not to imitate him in that mistake. Rowdy says his dream in life is to be better than him in the future. At that moment, Officer Hobble approaches with his baton and orders Hatch to go with him. Rowdy is very worried about his father, but Hobble tells him to stay until he returns. Hobble takes Hatch to his office, and Hatch is shocked to find someone sitting at the desk with his feet up. The man introduces himself as White Martin, Max's father. The boy Hatch's son hit, and also says he runs the whole town. When Hatch tries to apologize, White tells him to be quiet, gets up, and approaches him, saying, "Tourists have a free permit to do whatever they want." He tells him that Rady caused an injury to his son's arm, which he plays soccer with, and that's a big problem. Hatch apologizes and assures him he'll make Rady apologize to his son. He asks White to check the security cameras to confirm who started the trouble, and also mentions that his employee hit his daughter. White looks at him angrily and orders Hobble to release them on the condition that they leave the town quickly. Hatch takes his family and leaves, but Hobble decides not to let them go in peace. He orders his assistant to take a group of men and finish them off. The assistant says White told them to let them go, but Hobble replies that White's word won't stop him and orders them to do it. They return to the hotel, and Becca is very upset with Hatch's behavior. She tells him he promised her to stay out of trouble and blames him for their son's aggression, accusing him of being the cause because Rady imitates all his actions. Hatch tries to explain what happened until she understands. The next day, they go out to continue their vacation. Becca shoots with great skill, and we learn that her father and brother are officers. On the other side, Hatch's father is sitting in his cabin enjoying his time. We go back to Hatch playing with his family and then taking them to ride the duck boat. Before they get on, he sees Hobble's assistant with a group of his men and realizes they are coming for revenge. He pretends in front of Becca and the kids that everything is fine, puts them on the boat, and refuses to join them, pretending he's tired. He takes the next boat, and Hobble's men board behind him, along with an old man and his wife. As soon as the boat moves, Hatch asks them what they want. The assistant tells him, "You didn't follow our orders and left town with your family." Hatch tries to explain that he's just making memories with his family, but they mock him and start attacking him one by one. However, he can't leave Max to get hurt and decides to go back and teach them a lesson. He's so strong that Abel's men run away in fear. We see Hatch killing them mercilessly, cutting one of their throats with a chainsaw, then running to untie Max and escaping after blowing up the whole place. After that, Lindina finds out what happened and is shocked when she learns her money and shipment have been blown up and turned to ashes. Her men show her pictures of Hatch with his family and confirm he's responsible for what happened. Lindina goes crazy, and at that moment, Abel calls her, his body covered in burns. He asks her to send a big team of her soldiers so he can finish off Hatch, confirming to her that he's very dangerous and not just a tourist visiting the city. Lindina gets angry at him and tells him, "I'm coming to you myself," and hangs up on him. Hatch goes with Max to his father's cabin and checks on his wife and children. Brady welcomes Max among them. Hatch talks to Becca and suggests she stay away from him because he couldn't keep his promise to her to stay out of trouble, but Becca refuses and asks him to clean up the mess quickly so they can continue their vacation. Hatch goes to White, and as soon as he enters, White tries to kill him, but Hatch blocks all his attacks and knocks him to the ground to calm him down and make him listen. Hatch starts telling him that Abel kidnapped his son and was about to kill him, then tells him the rest of what happened and thanks him. White tells him that Lynn is a wild and crazy woman who also killed his father. He takes him to a room full of weapons and tells him his father was planning to kill her, but she got to him first and finished him off. At that time, Lindina moves with her army of men towards Hatch. We see Hatch preparing his plan and tells White they need to evacuate the amusement city of everyone present. White follows his instructions exactly. After evacuating the place, they start planting bombs, mines, weapons, and knives everywhere so they can finish off Lindina's men. Hatch lets the dog out of its cage to help them, and strangely, the dog obeys him. At that moment, Harry and his father arrive to help Hatch and White plant the weapons and bombs. Hatch's father watches the road, and as soon as Lindina and her men approach, he lets them know. Lindina then orders her assistant to take a group of his men and go finish off Hatch's family in the cabin. After that, we see Abel standing in front of Hatch and White, offering them to surrender to Lindina before a massacre occurs. Hatch tells him, "We want to see," and Abel leaves them and stands in front of Lindina's car, signaling for her men to attack. Lindina orders her men to finish him off first because she's fed up with his stupidity. Her men get out and riddle him with bullets, finishing him off. Then, the war begins begins between her men and Hatch and White. White starts detonating the bombs. Hatch activates the traps and kills anyone from her men who appears in front of him, turning the place into a massacre. Unfortunately, White gets shot in the leg but keeps fighting. Meanwhile, Lindina's assistant and his men reach the cabin, but before they can enter, Harry appears with his mighty, very sharp sword, cutting off their heads one after another. Then he engages in a sword fight with the assistant and manages to break his sword and he cuts off his head and separates it from his body, while Brady grabs one of Lindina's men and strangles him until he finishes him off. When Harry comes to him and sees the scene, he gets very happy and encourages him for his strength. Then we go to Hatch, who is standing in front of Lindina, and at that moment, he gets into a fight with two girls who are among her strongest followers. Lindina stands watching them, and before they finish him off, Wade shoots them and finishes them off. Lindina goes crazy when she sees this, throws a knife at his chest, and attacks Hatch, putting a knife to his neck. Before she kills him, Pika arrives and shoots her in the arm with an arrow. Lindina gets angry and throws a knife at her, but Pika shoots her in the eye with an arrow and finishes her off. She then runs to Hatch to check on him. Hatch's father calls them to escape quickly before he blows up the place. So Wade, Hatch, and Pika jump into the water, and the place where Lindina and her men were explodes. Harry, his sons, and Hatch stand by the cabin watching the intensity of the explosion. After that, we go back to the first scene and see Hatch, Pika, and the dog sitting in front of the investigators. They tell them, "We are just a married couple." At that moment, the investigator gets a call from his boss, ordering him to release them quickly, so the investigator is forced to comply even though he is not convinced. He removes their handcuffs. Then we see Hatch watching photos of the trip with his family, and he decides that they will go to the city, Bloomfield, again next summer. Hey there, CineMaster fans! Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. The events of part 2 of the movie Nobody begin with the professional killer Hutch, who is sitting with a dog in front of two detectives. He looks exhausted, with serious injuries on his face and body. We also notice that his little finger is cut off and still bleeding. At that moment, Hutch lights his lighter to heat it up, then extinguishes it and burns a specific wound on his hand, shocking the detectives with his behavior. The female detective asks him not to act like that because he could hurt himself. The other detective asks, "Who are you?" At that point, Hutch recalls the events and starts introducing himself to the detectives. We see Hutch sleeping, and as usual, he wakes up, prepares breakfast, checks on his children, goes to work, comes back to sleep, and this routine continues every day until Thursday comes. We see Hutch killing a group of criminals, fighting them professionally and with great strength. He pulls out his weapon and kills more than one of them. When one of them tries to overpower him, Hutch grabs an axe and strikes him with it. At that moment, he receives a message from his wife Becca, asking if he'll be late for dinner. He tells her he's at work but will try to come quickly and apologizes for being late. We then see Becca replying hesitantly. She wants to tell him something but deletes the message after writing that she needs to talk to him, instead telling him she'll wait for him and that she loves him. Hutch is happy with her messages and assures her that he loves her very much. Here, we notice that Becca is not happy and feels bored in her relationship with Hutch. The next day, Becca prepares breakfast for her daughter Bleenie and son Brady. Before Brady leaves for practice, she asks him to clean his plate. At that moment, Hutch wakes up, checks on them, and apologizes to his wife for sleeping in the garage, assuring her that he didn't want to bother or wake her when he came home late. Brady asks him how he did in the match, and Becca tells him he lost, suggesting that Hutch get more details from his son, since she's late for work. She is a real estate agent in the county. As usual, Hutch misses the garbage truck and runs outside with the trash can, feeling that his wife and children are upset with him. He stops Becca before she leaves in her car and asks her what's wrong. She tells him that summer is approaching and he hasn't prepared anything yet. He assures her that he's thinking of a plan for a nice family vacation and tells her he'll wait for them at dinner to share his plan and will prepare their favorite food. But he has a task to finish first before coming home. As soon as Becca hears he has a task, she gets upset and drives off, making Hutch feel she's very angry with him, but is afraid to talk so as not to upset him. Afterwards, Hutch goes to a hotel. As soon as he enters, he focuses on a group of people, joins them in the elevator pretending to be one of the employees, then goes to his boss, who is upset and drinking heavily. His boss tells him, "It looks like you had a long day." Hutch replies, "It was long, unlike what you thought," gives him the data cards, and starts explaining how the mission went. He tells him that when he entered the elevator, he asked them if the conference was good. One of them got angry and said, "We're not here for the conference." Before the man could grab his weapon, Hutch snatched it and started shooting, asking them about the card. They refused to answer, so he fought them fiercely, knocking them down one by one. None of them could handle him. When one tried to call security, Hutch grabbed the phone and ordered him to be quiet, then continued fighting until he finished them off and took the card. When he left the elevator, he was confronted by a group of Chechen criminals with heavy weapons who all fired at him at once. He had to hide and threw a gas canister at them, blowing them all up. Then he faced another group of Brazilian criminals armed with very sharp swords and knives. He took off his belt, tied it to his arm with a strong electric wire, and started fighting them one by one until he finished them off. After his boss made sure the card was safe, he thanked Hutch and told him the mission was worth the effort, and that with this mission, he paid off $800,000 of his debt with $30 million left. He gives him the file for his next mission. Hutch reaches out to take it, in pain, and tells his boss he needs a rest because he's very tired. His boss says he's trying to help him pay off his debts. We learn that these debts are due to Hutch burning Russian money during a certain mission. His boss confirms that he paid the money for him so that Hutch would carry out the required missions, and that if he keeps this pace, he'll pay off the debt before the end of spring. Hutch begs for a vacation to rest so he can return to work with energy. So his boss reluctantly agrees and wishes him a good holiday and good luck. Hutch asks, "What's the point of luck?" His boss replies, "This job is your nature, and nature always wins. Wherever you go, you'll stay the same." Hutch remembers the phrase he read on a criminal's car, that he spent a special summer in Blomel, so he decides to take his wife and children to spend the summer in Blomerville. At night, he shows his family videos of the city, its special places, a beautiful amusement park, a water park, and duck boats. Becca likes the idea, and his son asks what duck boats are. Hutch explains they are boats shaped like ducks that move in the water. He surprises them by saying he'll take his father with them, a retired federal investigator, now living in a nursing home. Hutch tells them his father once took him and his brother Harry to Blomerville, and he has many memories there. He begs them to agree to the trip, assuring them they'll have a great time. They all agree, and Hutch is very happy with their decision. After that, they get ready and go to pick up Hutch's father from the nursing home. As soon as he arrives, his father comes out wearing beach clothes, amazing as grandchildren. Hutch asks him for a cigarette before getting in the car, and although annoyed, he gives him one and puts it out in his own palm. Then they head to the city, singing and dancing along the way, and Becca looks happy. They arrive, and Hutch takes them to their rooms. His son is shocked to learn he'll be sleeping in the same room as his sister, but Hutch explains he booked 3 rooms, one for them, one for their grandfather, and one for himself and Becca. Hutch's father suggests they all stay in his old cabin, but Becca refuses. So Hutch's father gives his room to his grandson and goes to stay in his cabin. Then Hutch takes Becca to show her their room, and she really likes it. She thanks her, and at that moment their daughter enters and tells them it's time for the water, so they get ready, put on their swimsuits, and all head out together. Hatch shows them the beauty of the place, happily. When they reach the beach gate, he is shocked when the employee stops him and tells him it's closed for the rest of the day due to repairs. She gives them a food voucher as compensation and apologizes to them. Hatch's father gets upset and decides to spend the time as he likes, so he takes Hatch, his wife, and children to the restaurant to eat the free sandwiches. Don't forget to share and subscribe to get all new updates.